everybody, I'm Tom Vassell. Welcome back to 12 Games of Christmas. This is a series that we're doing in which we pick 10 different categories and we talk about 12 great games that we recommend you go check out. Whether you're getting them for someone else or yourself, and whether you find them at your local store or online, we recommend GameNerds.com. We went and checked to see if these games were available or will shortly be available. This series of videos is sponsored by the World Series of Board Gaming, and you can find a link to them below. And what they're doing is they're having 16 different events which will culminate in one champion next year, and each event is a specific game. And I'm looking at some of these games here, like they got Dominant Species Marine, Brass Birmingham, Gaia Project, Great Western Trail, Terraforming Mars, and these games are what I consider to be advanced strategy games. Games for the gamer, and that is what this video is about. And so if you like the games in this video, you're probably interested in going to World Series of Board Gaming. And if you're interested in going to World Series of Board Gaming, you're probably interested in these games. We got 12 great advanced strategy games. Here we go.
All right, kicking off the advanced strategy list, we have Tekhenu. This is one of the more recent in what are being known as the T series of games. These are all advanced strategy games that start with the letter T. They have some similar feel to them, but they're all very much their own games. Tekhenu is a dice drafting game where you have a board that is broken up into 6 sections that are all representing different gods. And towards the center of the board, you have this obelisk, this large plastic and very impressive looking obelisk that incorporates into the theme by having different areas that are either going to be shaded or light or completely dark. And that may influence which dice you can take or how those dice work. You also have to take into account all of the different aspects of the board. There's a whole lot to consider, a whole lot to think about, which is what you're looking for in these advanced strategy games. Like almost all of these games, there's a really nice crunchy decision-making aspect to it, agonizing decisions, but if you like these types of games, those are the kinds of decisions you're looking for. Tekhenu to me almost feels like a series of mini games that are all nicely connected, all centered around that central obelisk. So if you're interested in a crunchy strategy game, Tekhenu is a nice one to check out.
Anno 1800 is what we've got next. It is a great advanced strategy game, and it's got a very unique mix of mechanisms. You've got population growing. You're trying to make these interesting tech tree things. So, I'm advancing I have like a pig farm and I have some metalworking, and I'm going to put that together and I'm going to make canned meats. And now I have some advanced technology. You can advance all the way through. It's really cool. There's a lot of stuff going on there. But also, as you build your population, you are gaining more contracts and you're extending out the game and getting to do more. It's just a really cool Euro game with a lot going on and just a fun mix of things that we haven't really seen before put together. So if you've got someone who wants to try something new or someone who really likes the video games, try Anno 1800.
A great advanced strategy game I like to recommend is The Search for Planet X, which is great if you like deduction games. So in the game, you're searching for Planet X, but there's a lot of sectors in space, and you're actually trying to find what's in each sector, because you get points for finding things in different sectors, like asteroids or dwarf planets, other things that aren't Planet X. You can be searching the different sectors. You're moving around the board, so you can actually only search for places that you can see, and you get this information, and other people are doing things too, and you can kind of get information based on what they're doing sometimes. But then you can guess what's in a certain sector, and you get points for that. So when you do that, after a couple of turns, it flips over, and other people get information based on what you guess, because it'll tell you yes or no. The whole thing is app assisted, which is great because then you don't have the possibility of people messing up the information, which happens a lot in deduction games. There's also an advanced mode and less advanced mode, but in the advanced mode you don't get any information at the beginning, and there's more sectors, so it's great for if you want like a heavy deduction game. That's The Search for Planet X.
Next up we have Oath. This is an advanced strategy game in every sense of the word. It is very daunting to try to explain to you what this game is about in 60 seconds or so, so I'm not going to even really try. But Oath is a game that feels completely unique. Is it a storytelling game? Not exactly, but it incorporates elements of storytelling. Is it a legacy game? Not exactly, but it incorporates certain ideas from that. In Oath, you are playing as either a citizen or as a chancellor or perhaps as an exile. Different roles that you can take that could change throughout the game and oftentimes will change throughout the game and will change the goals that you're trying to achieve. It is a game that is very much about the people around the table as much as it is about the mechanisms that are involved. It's a game that really takes a little bit of time to wrap your head around. It's a bit of a niche game, but if you know people that like games that incorporate storytelling without being just a straight storytelling game, that like shifting roles and alliances and table talk, this is a game that really might be of interest to them. It also looks absolutely gorgeous and has some of the most impressive components you're ever likely to see. So that is Oath.
In Lost Ruins of Arnak, you've crossed uncharted seas. You've discovered an island that has yet to be explored, so you lead an expedition. Can you discover the lost secrets, face fearsome guardians, and find the treasure? I've discovered that when I was playing this at 2-player, we could each almost have our own solo type and our own goals in order to win. But when I was playing this at a 4-player, it got intense. We kept on stealing each other's resources. We kept on going up the other track and taking the cards we all wanted. The one thing I do like about this game is that every time I've played it, it's been different. It's had a different outcome and there's multiple ways to win. And I like games like that. This game is rated an 8.1 on BGG and has a complexity rating of 2.85. I think that this game is actually more complex than 2.85, but that's just my thing on it. This game makes me want to go out and explore uncharted territories. Thank you, Lost Ruins of Arnak, and thank you, CGE.
Next up, I'm leaning into the advanced part of the advanced strategy list because I'm going to recommend On Mars. I think On Mars is a very difficult to learn but very satisfying game. There's a lot going on to it, but I think of all the Vital Lacerda games, this one has a theme that's very recognizable to a lot of gamers. We've had plenty of games about kind of, colonizing Mars and settling down there, and I think that this one does a lot of things that I really, really enjoy. But because of our familiarity with that theme, even though there's a lot of interlocking mechanisms and interlocking ideas of what you need to do on a turn, it is one that you can kind of understand a little bit quicker than I think some of his other titles. It's a worker placement game, but there's two different halves of the board, and you as the president of your company are represented by a person that will be traveling between the space station floating around Mars and then the actual surface of the planet, and depending on which side of the board you happen to be on or where the actions you can take. I feel like that gives the game a good little breakdown, so you don't have to worry about both halves at the same time. You just worry about which half you're at, and then you say, okay, eventually in a round or two, I'm going to zoom down to the surface of the planet, then I'm going to do some planet building up actions, but then I need to get some resources and relay with Earth for some plans and some blueprints. I'm going to zoom back up to the space station. I feel like this is a very advanced game, very satisfying, deep, and strategic, and yet it's one that, for me, I don't have as hard of a time understanding conceptually what I'm supposed to do. So that's why I'm really recommending it for this one. Beautiful game, astounding cover, lots of fun. On Mars.
Next for advanced strategy game, this is Paladins of the West Kingdom. This is, all the West Kingdom line is great, but this is my absolute favorite in that line of games. It is a relatively small box, but it is packed full of pieces as well as packed full of just game out there. In this game, you're collecting different colored workers, and they get to go to different worker placement spots, and they get to perform different actions based on the color of the worker. And there's even some action spots that get you lots of points, but they require various colored workers. Maybe you need a red, a black, and a green worker all to work together to be able to gain some greater points. This is a game where there's lots of different strategies. You can do tons of different things, focus in on just a few, and really figure out how to make that work. Love it. You can upgrade actions, make them cheaper. There's just so much going on. This game is tons of fun. So if you have an advanced strategy game player, or if you played some of the other ones in the West Kingdom line, so much fun. I super recommend this game.
Next up for this list is Scythe. If you are looking for strategy, this is the game because you are trying to figure out your engine, essentially. You are each playing as a different faction in this game, and you just have one action that you could take each round. You're moving around this little pawn along these like 4 different actions that you could take that could possibly give you 2 actions, which is always cool. But there is the threat of combat looming in the air, but it's not all about the fighting in this game, right? Because it's mostly really about gaining resources. So you're sending your workers out amongst the land to gain resources from where they are produced. And you are also trying to gain like popularity for your faction. You're bolstering your power. You're completing objectives, all in an effort to be the most profitable faction in the game. So that is my pick for this list, Scythe.
Next up, we have Merchant's Cove. Now, in Merchant's Cove, you are playing, as you might expect, as a merchant, and you are trying to produce goods and sell them to customers who are coming in on boats to the titular Merchant's Cove. Now, this is a completely asymmetrical game, meaning that every character is going to have a different game mechanism that they use to produce those goods that they're then going to sell. So you might be the blacksmith, and that's going to be doing a dice placement system. You may be the oracle, which is going to have a bit of a roll and write system. You may be the alchemist, who has kind of a marble drawing, drafting type of a system. So what's really nice about Merchant's Cove is that it can appeal to a wide range of gamers, because if one of those mechanisms is your favorite, you can play as that particular character that utilizes it. And if you like one character, you might be interested in how a different character plays out. So while you're essentially doing the same thing, you're all trying to produce goods, you're all trying to sell goods to customers, the way you're doing it is different. And I really, really like that. It has a very unique feel. For an asymmetrical game, it's not terribly complex. So I know a lot of times asymmetrical games can be a little bit daunting to teach and learn. Merchant's Cove, I think, does a really nice balance of having relatively simple rules and mechanisms and still feeling very asymmetric. So there you have it. That's Merchant's Cove.
And the next one is Underwater Cities, the game that has been out for a while and is well loved.
It is, yeah. And I think what has always really worked really well with this game, it combines worker placement, which is moderately but not too brutal.
That's right.
And tableau building. And it has this really interesting mechanic where you want to match the colours of your cards with the colours of the worker placement actions you take. And if you can optimize that the best, that's going to put you in really good stead.
Yeah, and the turn order as well, where you can alter it between turn. And I know you like that sort of mechanic.
Yep, it's got a nice little turn order track. It has, there's a few I like, as I said before, it's not a totally brutal worker placement in terms of having to get the action that you need, because there's about 3 rounds between upkeeps and incomes, but there's just enough intrigue there that you've got to, sometimes you really have to jump in. And I like that. I like where if you don't, where it's difficult to get your action space, but not so difficult that it ruins your whole game if you miss it once.
Really good Euro game, and not to mention the art and the little dome for the underworld world.
Yes, indeed.
Next up, I'm recommending Golem. This is by Cranio Creations. I think that this is a very satisfying, very advanced game. There's a lot of sprawling mechanisms and pieces going on here. It's not the easiest game to learn, but once I figured it out, I had a ton of enjoyment out of this one, and I'm excited to talk about this one more in the future, because this is what I'm going to be continuing to play. It has a marble drafting phase to it. It has different action kind of selections and stuff. And there's so many great ways that you can combo actions together. You only get 12 turns in the whole game, but the way that you can start building up and comboing things as you upgrade different parts of your board is some of the most satisfying that I've seen in a long time. So if you like that type of thing where you have a very small amount of turn taking that you're actually going to be doing, 4 rounds to the game, 3 actions each, but the key is to try and find the best combos that you can that let you move this piece over here and then lay it down so you can activate this, which also gives me a bonus over here. If you love building that type of turn structure up, I think that you're going to have a lot of enjoyment from Golem. Unique theme, great look to it for the most part, especially a very striking cover. So That's my recommendation, Golem.
The last game in this category is Whistle Mountain. Whistle Mountain is a game in which there is a giant dam where you're slowly building it up with different parts, almost Tetris-style little pieces, and you have these airships, these workers that you're placing on the board. And this is a typical game in many regards where you're collecting resources to build these sections of this dam, but you're also building little machines on top of it. And when you place one of your air balloon or your Zeppelin on the board, whatever you place it next to, you're going to get the resources, but you also operate all these machines. So if you like a worker placement game, this one lets you customize where the places are you place workers. I might say, wow, if I put the Zeppelin here, I get to operate 4 different machines, get 2 water and a gold. That's fantastic. It is such an interesting game. I don't think it's that complex, but it offers a lot of really good decisions, and every game plays differently because the way the dam gets built with all these different interesting machines on it is going to play differently each time. This was one of my favorite games that came out last year, and I highly recommend it. That's Whistle Mountain. And that, folks, is the end of another one of these videos. Check out our sponsor, World Series of Board Gaming. In the description below, we have a link to that. And like I said, Game Nerds has many of these games in stock, and you can find them there. I really hope that you all have a very, very Merry Christmas. When you play these games, I know you're going to have a good time. Thanks so much for watching 12 Games at Christmas, Advanced Strategy Games on the Dice Tower.